Dark. This is Gary. My sidekick tonight is James Chrisbaum, and we'll be back in 2.5 minutes.
If you would like to hear Night Dreams Talk Radio on your local radio station, let them know. Tell them to check out www.nightdreamstalkradio.com, and thank you.
Good evening, or morning, depending on your time zone. From the Pacific to the Atlantic to you worldwide. Get yourself a cup of java and find a comfy, easy chair. And get ready for Gary and his guest on Night Dreams Talk Radio. After Dark. And now, here's Gary.
And here I am. I almost feel like Johnny Carson with that one, James. You know that?
I know. I feel like Ed McMahon.
Yeah.
What's going on with that?
I don't know. It's rather interesting. Well, that's a new intro from the radio station that carries this in San Diego. That's one of the new... I got a whole bunch of ones. Plus, they sent me all new graphics, which you might have seen on Facebook today. They were really busy promoting my show.
Yeah, it looks like you got some good stuff to choose from, pick and choose from.
Oh, yeah. So, how are you doing?
Well, I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing good. At least I'm trying to.
Well, that's all you can do. You know what? You're still making progress. Keep on, buddy. And, you know, about these mutilations, I found some, these are all around the world. They're not just localized to the United States.
Okay, well, I don't want to get in that yet. We don't have Sam on here. He's going to be calling in about a minute. So, yeah, I just want to say a big shout out again to Judie Fein. We had a long, good conversation. It went way better than I ever expected it to be. We covered Earth changes. We covered, the paranormal towards the end, and cultures, how cultures are different all around the world. I didn't know that in Cuba, you make $15 to $30 a month working.
Yeah, that's bizarre, isn't it? And that was professionals too. It wasn't just Joe Blow. I think she mentioned a lawyer and maybe a pharmacist. I think she said.
Yeah, that's alarming. But one thing they have, they got good health insurance. So that's what we need in this country. You really alarmed me tonight when you said when your past wife, was in the hospital, and you heard the doctors talking about somebody that it was badly hurt and that they could save him. But it seemed like it was a cost factor, and they didn't want to spend the money, to save the person. They rather sell the person's organs. That really, it shook me up. I'm going to think about that after the show tonight.
I've been thinking about that for 20 years since the day I heard it. That's how bad it shook me up.
Well, yeah. I don't know if you've been listening, Sam, but did you hear the part where James said that, 20 years ago he was at a hospital, an emergency room with his wife, and that there was somebody, it was badly hurt, and that basically the doctors made the decision that, hey, we can save this person, but it's going to cost too much. Hey, but he has organs. Did you hear that?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
That really shook me up.
It's I'm not sounding too tinny here, am I?
No, you don't sound like you're in the bathroom at all this time.
Okay, that's good to keep worrying about that.
No, I will say this. I had a talk show host that I used to carry on my network that actually had a guest that while he was interviewing him, walked into the little men's room and twinkled with his cell phone.
No.
Yeah, and it was going over the air, and I was like, oh my God. Afterward, I was freaking out. Afterwards, it was like the funniest thing I've ever heard.
Oh, I guess so. Better turn the volume down on that one.
Yeah, I guess his guest felt really comfortable with the conversation, I guess.
There's appropriate times to mute your phone, and that's one of them, I believe.
Yeah, or mute the guys, do something. I have a kill switch on my end, so I can kill anything anytime I want. But, that kind of alarms me. If that happened 20 years ago, do you think now with all the medical expenses, you go in, even in a hospital, like my one son went in the hospital because he had an abscessed tooth. Okay, and it was on the weekend. He went to the emergency room, and you know how much the bill was? $6,000 a sit for a couple of hours before the doctor came, looked at his mouth, and says, well, I can't do anything but give you antibiotics. You got to call up the dentist on Monday. $6,000 bill.
Got one better for you.
I want to hear it. I want to hear it.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, just because you get older and you're on Medicare doesn't mean anything. As I listened to the program earlier, he was just walking outside of his door, and he fell, hit his head, and the person with him says, well, maybe you ought to go to the emergency room. So, I mean, he wasn't feeling that bad. He could have easily just went inside, just laid down, took a couple of aspirins or Tylenol or something, and maybe he would have felt better. He gets to the hospital ER, and then the doctor says, well, I think we need to run some tests. I think we need to run all the tests on you.
Yeah.
So after everything's said and done, he's only in there for, 6 hours, 7 hours? Gets a bill. It's $18,000.
I'm sorry I laugh, but I
know it's ridiculous. I mean, because they figure that, well, he's on Medicare, so we'll just give him every test in the book and just collect on the money. It becomes part of the money. Well, Medicare obviously didn't take too lightly to that, and there was whatever insurance he had was questioning it, wasn't going to pay it. Well, so he had to go through this whole fight, and finally they accepted it and went ahead and paid it. But still, this is what you have to deal with on a constant basis. You have to be dirt careful what you do, especially if you're retired like you were bringing up. I'm in that time frame, too, where I'm not quite on Medicare yet, but I have to worry about my assets, literally, because if I allow myself to go into a hospital and just say, okay, do the works on me, it's possible that something may not get paid for, or the deductible is so large, I could lose my house over it.
Oh, yeah.
And how many people actually have that happen to them?
Well, that's what I was getting at. Like one of my children the other day, he's adults, he goes, Dad, why don't you get surgery? And I said, it's $200,000 and some $1,000. I know the insurance company is going to come back and balk at it. And Medicare, do you realize when you get your Medicare card, if you read what little percentage they pay, They pay very little amount of your hospital bill, very little. So, I mean, how do these people in their late 60s, 70s, or even 80s, that's why they end up moving in with their kids, because they end up losing their house. They lose everything they have. It doesn't take much. If you get sick when you get older, you could lose everything you worked your whole life for, and it's gone. Or if you end up in a nursing home because you broke your hip, for example. I know somebody right now who's 72 years old, broke their hip, and they're in the nursing home. You could kiss their assets all goodbye, because you know what? The nursing home's going to get everything.
Oh, yeah. They get like $1,000 a day.
It's not just Medicare. It's once Medicaid kicks in, then there's a good certainty that the house or any property they have immediately goes back to the administration.
It does.
You know, so some people try to plan early by putting, their properties in trust and getting that all prearranged, and you got to do it pretty quickly. I think they go back 5 years, something that
3 years. 3 years they go back.
3 years. Okay. So, you get up to a certain point and you own a lot of stuff. Well, guess what? All it takes is one hit, and especially with the, it's outrageous. Judie Fein was right on target with that, because I was just boiling when we were talking about the Cuba experience down there, and I'd known about that too, about the Medicare they provide. And the thing is, it's a crime what's happening in this country with everyone. And you ask yourself, what can you do about it? Especially if you get older. I mean, you can boycott stuff. What are you going to do? Boycott going to the doctor? Boycott going to the hospital if you need medical care badly enough, or just allow yourself to die? What difference can you make?
You can
to solve the problem.
I looked at my medical bill, being in the hospital a couple of times. I think the longest I was in the hospital was at one time was 4 hours. And I got the bill, and it was $18,000 for those 4 hours. One of them was $90,000. And I started looking at, they gave me an oxycodone at one point. They gave me a couple times some morphine, but I just noticed the oxycodone pill was $18.
I went to the hospital last year. I had a serious septic infection in my leg, and I had to call the emergency paramedics. So I had an ambulance ride into Enumclaw and was in an emergency room, and I was there for 3 days. Okay, so they kept me in there. They had to give me massive antibiotics intravenously to kind of quell the infection, because I was starting to get the real high fever. After everything was said and done, I have the insurance. Even with the deductible, I still had to pay $7,000. The total bill for 3 days, and this is not surgery or anything, 3 days in the hospital plus the emergency room, plus getting antibiotics, and no painkillers. They won't give them to you. You just have to take Tylenol and suffer. I believe it was about $34,000 total. They show you what the total is. Unbelievable.
But yeah. You know what, too, what gets me, like I was saying, go in the hospital, you're in the ER, right? And then you get into the room finally. You don't see a doctor right away. You might see a nurse come in and take your blood pressure and all that. They leave. The next person you see is this emitting person, right? And they're walking around with their portable computer on wheels, right? And the first thing they go, hey, can I get your name? Do you have your insurance cards? Do you have your Medicare card? Do you have all this stuff? They're interested in making sure you have insurance. That's the number thing.
And if you didn't?
I don't know.
Show you the door? I don't know. What they do, show you the door? It says, try your luck somewhere else.
I don't think what happens is when they know you have insurance, right, they run every single test they can think of. Okay? Like, I had to have the CAT scan. I had the whatever that one is they put you in a machine that hammers.
MRI.
Yeah, I had that done. I had x-rays done. Then they figured, we need to do the MRI again. And then do some more ultrasound and all this. And I tell you, that's what ran it up. It was crazy.
There's another factor that I found Go ahead.